The Process Management course presents the last three tracks of quantum transformation: gradual process improvement, radical process improvement, and learning process improvement. The reason I combine the last three tracks into one online course is because each of these three tracks involves describing, controlling, and improving the processes that flow within and across the organization's systems. And thus, the last three tracks share many of the same tools and techniques. On this video, I provide a brief introduction to this online course, starting with the first section, Seeing the Big Picture. Here I present the familiar image of the complex hologram. In our prior courses, we concentrated on the formal and informal systems, both inside and outside the organization. But in this course, we'll focus on all the double arrows in the complex hologram, which represent the processes that flow within and across all the systems. As part of seeing the big picture, I include a brief review of the 8 tracks for quantum transformation. When these tracks are implemented in sequence, they close the gap between the actual and desired functioning in every aspect of the complex hologram. In the next section of the course, I proceed with the gradual process track. Here I present the basic concepts of process management, so you know what this perspective uniquely adds to all our prior work on improving an organization's informal and formal systems. Specifically, I will define and illustrate a process cell, which is when a subunit first receives inputs from one or more suppliers. Next, the subunit adds value to those inputs by performing certain tasks and making particular decisions. And then the subunit delivers its outputs to one or more customers. Since every individual member or every subunit constitutes a process cell, we can extend a process cell to a whole process chain, starting when an external customer requests a product or service, and ending when the customer receives that product or service, thus coming full circle from womb to tomb with the organization itself in the center of the circle. The next section of the course examines how to describe processes. Here I show how a flowchart can illuminate the particular sequence by which a group performs tasks and makes decisions in order to provide value-added outputs to its customers, whether it's the internal customer next door or if it's the external customers around the globe. And once a process is captured on paper or on screen, the value of each task and decision can be assessed. As a result, group members can then draw a new flowchart that now has fewer tasks and decisions, which thereby reduces cycle time, process costs, and inventory levels. And if group members agree to use that redesigned process as their standard operating procedure, then customers down the process chain are more likely to get exactly what they want when they want it. This section concludes with a set of worksheets on describing processes, so group members can use flowcharts to streamline their tasks and decisions. The next section of the course considers whether the recently redesigned, agreed-upon work process is actually being performed as intended. It's in this section on controlling processes when I first use a visual metaphor of target practice, trying to hit the bullseye on a target over and over again, as a way of explaining some important statistical concepts regarding how well and how consistently group members perform a core process day after day. The visual metaphor of target practice will help us understand the key parameters of a process control chart, which is an invaluable tool for seeing whether or not a process is under statistical control. At this time, group members learn to collect data in order to determine whether their process is in fact under control. But if the process turns out to be out of control, which means that the process is unreliable, then various control barriers must first be identified and then removed, so the process will be performed, precisely and consistently for the benefit of both internal and external customers. This section concludes with a set of worksheets on controlling processes that group members can use to identify and remove control barriers that prevent any core process from functioning as intended. Even if a process is under statistical control, however, it may still not satisfy customer needs or other stakeholder requirements. Such a process must now be improved. The next section of the course makes a key distinction. When describing and controlling processes, group members make the best use of current resources, which include, for example, the given group members, technologies, materials, information, and policies. But when the focus shifts to improving processes, group members must now be delegated the freedom and the authority to remove one or more resource constraints, which enable members to redesign, hence improve, their core process. In the same section of the course, group members learn to benchmark their core process in order to discover how another group, perhaps in another organization, has developed a much better process for doing the same kind of work. And then, by identifying and removing various improvement barriers, group members will be able to achieve world-class performance goals. This section concludes with a set of worksheets to help members benchmark their core processes and then improve them. The next section of the course begins the Radical process track, which switches the focus from managing core processes within existing subunits to managing the core processes that cut across subunit boundaries. In some cases, the vertical structure of subunits might remain intact, and a number of cross-functional teams would be established to describe, control, and improve these cross-boundary processes. But to achieve radical improvement, it's often necessary to redesign the functional-based subunits, such as marketing, sales, and R&D, into process-based subunits, which are built around business processes, such as customer order fulfillment and enterprise logistics. This is when the Radical process track collaborates with the strategy structure track, so the most costly task flows, hence processes, are contained within subunit boundaries, resulting in reduced cycle times, process costs, and inventory levels. The next section of the course explores the speed at which processes can be described, controlled, and improved, which becomes a competitive advantage for any organization that can achieve radical process improvement better and faster than other firms in the same industry. Once again, worksheets are provided at the conclusion of this section, so numerous participants who represent the organization's functional departments can work together to radically improve their most complex cross-boundary business processes. This perspective on speeding up the rate of process management conveniently leads to the next section of the course on the learning process track. Not only do learning organizations speed up process management, but they also improve their systems better and faster than they did before. In addition, learning organizations are able to make major business decisions in half the time as they did before. Now, you might ask, how do organizations speed up their core processes, complex projects, and business decisions? In the learning process track, members describe, control, and improve their learning processes, how they create, obtain, store, retrieve, and use knowledge, as well as how they rapidly share this knowledge as needed throughout the organization. The learning process track also includes describing, controlling, and improving the processes by which individuals learn about themselves, their self-identity, self-worth, and self-responsibility, so they can move through change and transformation with ease and grace, instead of being plagued with self-doubt and remaining stuck in the past. And then, in the last section of the course, I extend my hearty congratulations and suggest how we can stay in touch and continue to create and share knowledge together.